After 4 months, Archie is still in talks with Sega about the comics.
Yeah, we're
Last,
still in the well.
last time we talked about this, we brought up some comics that have been put on hold, being cancelled, or there are some still being coming out. Well, if you were crying before, you're crying now, okay?
If you're expecting any big news, sorry, mate, you've only still got a wait and see type attitude.
Okay, there's an entire thread between fans and Archie Comics.
Hmm.
The situation with Archie continues, so the company has continued to tweet out many times that they're still in talks with Sega. How long can you be in talks with Sega? Otherwise, unless it's between two women who I swear can actually talk for fucking decades.
I don't know. You should see my parents when they meet people in pubs. They can go on for hours, but that's personal stuff I won't talk about here too much. Um, but
Overall,
yeah,
yes, there are still talks. There's no updates at the moment,
yeah.
but Genesis of a Hero Part 4, which is issue two. Wait, which one? 292
Hmm.
is listed as cancelled.
Yeah.
So not only Sonic Mega Drive is cancelled, but now it's affecting the main series.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
she's tweeting out saying, "Please understand that discussions with Sega are still ongoing. Don't have anything more to share with this moment, but hope so soon."
yeah. I mean, it is weird that apparently that they're now twinning out to actually individuals saying that, look, mate, we are still talking about this, rather than just doing a press note saying, "Calm down, kids. We'll tell you when it's ready,
Yeah,
if it's ready."
yeah. Right now, we at this moment, it's up to 7 months without a Sonic issue being released.
Hmm.
The Constellation Editions, not only Sonic 292 has now joined 291 and 294 is being listed. So hey, 293 is still there if you still want it. But I guarantee you that's fucking cancelled as well.
Yeah. So if you're expecting any resolution to some big plot point, you're gonna have to wait still, kids.
Yeah. But right now it just seems like we're hearing rumors left and right of everything.
Yeah, we
Like
do.
a lot like the archives are being put on hold, the Mega Drive being cancelled, the actual main series is being cancelled now. The people still in talks. Archie apparently it's been rumored that Archie didn't want to continue making these comics for this fucking long. And
Well, no,
and to renew the license, Sega's actually upping the charge on licensing the comics.
yeah,
So
that's the thing everybody's wondering about is basically okay, out of the two, who's basically been the one that's sticking the foot in the mud and saying I'm not budging? Is it Sega saying we want more money of this because this is apparently pretty big, or it's Archie going like we didn't expect to keep this going for so long, and God Almighty, that Ken bugger person just messed everything up, so we'd rather give it a rest. So I don't know. It is odd because
it right now with everything on the table right now
yeah,
between Sega licensing, Archie refusing to expand the license, and putting all the stock into fucking Riverdale, which is by the way it's on Netflix now. So go have it. Go and complain about how they turned the Archie comics into a fucking murder mystery.
which is odd because they technically did that in animated form a few years ago.
Yeah.
Which at least then it was basically at least it looks like Archie and it still is in the Archie universe without trying to do the grim reboot thing, which if we've learnt one thing, that isn't always the best case scenario.
Surprising to get a season two, but I do still blame Riverdale because Archie put a lot of their stock in that show,
Hmm.
which surprisingly is working for them. But at the same time, if it's
Well, put it
Archie's
this way,
one
it's
of
working, but it's getting spit and venom in the windows for the ravenous viewers.
yeah, the Sonic comic line is probably one of the few reasons they're still in business.
Hmm.
No, that's not being disingenuous or
No, no, no,
any
no, no.
other word. It's like that Archie isn't making money elsewhere, but you have a large fan base
Hmm.
who love the comics. Have been there since day one, or probably just been around since the reboot. Honestly, the reboot is 50-50 at this moment.
Well, I was
Some
going to
people
say, how
like
many
it, some people
reboots have?
hate it.
I mean, I'm just going to ask this question from you, Dad. In comic terms, have they at least done it once or at least twice now, reboot wise?
As far as major reboot, no.
All right, good. Because
It's been major retcons, though.
yes,
Major
yes,
retcons.
yeah,
Especially when Ken Penders wrote the entire history of the Chaos Emeralds and
yeah,
the
yeah,
Echidna
yeah. Again,
races. Then Sonic Adventure came out, and here's the actual official Echidna race and what happened to the Chaos Emeralds. Oh shit! We have to
yeah,
retcon this in, crowbar this in somehow and say, oh, yeah, there's like 7 sets of emeralds and 14 of those Chaos Emeralds merged together to create the Master Emerald.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the mammoth ghouls trapped inside with chaos. You're like, oh, you're fucking.
I know. It's pulling shit out of your ass just to meet a deadline. We all know that. But again, the weird thing is, I've been thinking about this whole Archie business, and the weird thing is this: at the minute, we are still getting at least information from both Archie, at least, and maybe a bit of Sega about the whole ordeal. If you compare this to, say, how look at some of the comic, for instance, in the UK wise. Now, for years, we didn't really exactly know what went on to make the comics. We just it was on the newsstand, we got it and enjoyed it for as long as we could. And the weird thing is that I've met Nigel Kitching again. I've said this before. He was my tutor at Teesside University. That was just a weird coincidence. But again, he told me before when he was working, it was sort of, it was a good relationship with him and Richard Elston, Nigel Dobbing, and various other writers and artists. And the weird thing is, of course, is like when they were working on it, it was constantly up and down about, he was fired at one point, then he was rehired and fired again and then brought back. So, there's a strange thing.
That explains the shift in art quality.
Yeah, well, but again, that's, I think, in terms of writing rather than anything else. But the weird thing, of course, is like, none of us knew that when they did their own Chaos Saga story arc, we didn't know that was going to be the end of the comic. As far as we were concerned, this was just, a new start for a whole new set of adventures. But then, as we know, we never got them. And
it's like all of a sudden, it's just constantly just like, oh, hey, it's after Adventure, we had the Brutus saga. It's like, who the fuck's Brutus? Is it a continuation? Why is the art quality dropped down?
Yeah, it
was reissued in syndication with new covers and new storylines intertwined. The strange thing is, though, is that during the Adventure storyline, within the actual comic itself, there was a Knuckles Echidna storyline that focused on the Brotherhood of Metallics, and that continued into this new syndication of the old Sonic comics.
Yeah, I mean, they really were just, redoing old issues. In fact, the story was apparently they thought it was cheaper just to bring out old issues of the comic with a new cover than actually doing anything new with the damn issue. Because at this point, funnily enough, because remember when the comic started, you had stuff like Shinobi, they did Kid Chameleon and stuff like that. The one that lasted the longest was Decapitate. That ended, I found about like the comics sort of, I think the big Robotnik Supreme story thing.
Oh, the game model arc.
Yeah, exactly. So, ironically, at that point, the only thing that was in the comic was just the main story issues. Everything else were reprints of old issues anyway, or one-off stories. So the fact they decided just to do that fully and trick us with new covers, good job, mate. But then again, it's weird because in comparison to this, if we had this same attention now, the outcry would have been much bigger. And again, the weird thing is, even with how they did the comic, remember, they didn't really know what to do with half the stories. I think Nigel had said, when they started, they played the games just to get the bare basis of, okay, we got this environment, there are these enemies, there's this kind of big set piece moment, I guess we can wind into the story. They had to pretty much just go on their own accord, really. They didn't really have a master plan. It was just, try this, do this, and I guess we can bring this back from a previous issue or whatever. But it was basically just, we got to make this stuff up for meet a deadline, really. And it's fascinating with Archie, the fact that they've gone on this long. And ironically, when they started, it was more of a bouncy, cartoony vibe thing, when they started the comics. Now it's gone into this whole heavy multi-story type things about past, present, futures, alternative versions of characters, and all this crazy stuff.
Which eventually got kicked in a bucket because Ken Penders couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Thank you, Ken, for doing that whole business. But again, it's funny to think that, it's weird to think if Archie, I've really gotten sick at this point with the series. I wouldn't be too surprised if it's all down to the fact that, again, they just don't know where to take it because of all the directions Sonic's been going the last few years. Because, again, we've got the main games, we've got the classic games, we've got the Boom series, which, again, there's all these intertwining things that how do you come up with something for one idea for a comic that could run for a few issues and then suddenly get a note from the boss saying, no, you're going to ditch it because they've changed their minds? So again, I don't know exactly how it is, but in a weird way, I feel it's odd to think that if this is to be the end of the Archie series, again, if it is, we don't know still if it's really the case of, I think the worst case scenario is it's just going to an argument, I want all the money, you can't have it, you bastards. Thank you, Robbie Llewellyn. So,
all I can say is to Archie and Sega, if it's going to be the end of an era, at least tie up and finish the arcs.
Yeah,
give us the rest of Sonic Mega Drive.
Yeah,
finish Genesis of a Hero and whatever the Sonic Universe comic arc you have left.
Yeah,
if you don't do anything, you tie up the loose end.
Yeah, again, I doubt that if they're canceling this, everybody's been put on hold before they've even started, printing these out, even drawing what they need to do. I doubt they would just say we haven't even started yet. I'm pretty sure they would have done preliminary drawings or whatever before this whole discussion happened. So if anything else, like I said with the UK comic, they had at least one big story arc to sort of wrap the series up at least, even though we didn't know at the ending. But at least with this, it's like just get them out, get them done, and then whatever. Then you can have your divorce papers and then go in your separate ways.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, it is odd to think that, like you said, this has been one of the longest running licensed video game comics ever done. And nobody else has managed to. No, I don't think anybody else is going to beat that record anytime soon. But it is weird to think that this is sort of the power Sonic has, is that in different medias, you will get different people sort of siding on which version they prefer. Because, like I said, there are people who love the game series, either the classic or the adventure, modern onwards. You've got, again, the UK comics, the American comics, you've got the TV shows, the 3D ones, the X, the anime, you've got Boom, the CGI sitcom. This is the thing. It's just always, you want ideally that there's as much variation out there for people to enjoy and have than just slot them into saying, no, you can't have that one anymore, which is where fans get really bitchy.
Well, if it gets cancelled, for a fact a group of fans online is ready to jump in to Sonic Online.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're gonna, if anything else, if you're gonna learn lessons from us Brits, just do that. There you go.
Yeah, just make comic versions of your existing fan fiction, so everyone will be happy.
Well, we'll see.